My brother convinced our dying mother to leave everything to him. The video she made in secret had other plans. Everything started falling apart when Mom got her diagnosis 3 years ago. The doctors gave her 18 months, maybe 2 years if she was lucky. My brother moved back home immediately, claiming he wanted to spend quality time with her during her final chapter. I was skeptical but figured grief makes people do strange things. I lived 2 states away with my wife and kids, working 60-hour weeks just to keep our heads above water. Every weekend I could manage, I drove the 8 hours to visit Mom. She seemed happy having my brother around, cooking for her, helping with appointments, handling the bills. Part of me felt guilty for not being there more, but someone had to maintain stability for my family. The first red flag came during Christmas that year. Mom mentioned she was updating her will, making sure everything was in order. She said my brother had been helping her understand all the legal paperwork. When I asked about specifics, she got vague and changed the subject. My brother just smiled and said he was making sure she understood her options. Over the next few months, I noticed subtle changes. Mom started talking about how my brother was sacrificing so much to care for her. She worried about his future, about how he had given up his apartment and job opportunities. Every conversation somehow circled back to his dedication and my absence. The guilt was eating me alive. By summer, the changes were more obvious. Mom seemed distant during our phone calls, distracted. When I visited, she spent most of the time praising my brother's cooking, his help around the house, his constant presence. She barely asked about my kids anymore. It felt like I was becoming a stranger in my own family. The breaking point came during what would be our last family gathering. Mom announced she had finished updating her will and wanted us both to know her decisions. She explained that my brother would inherit the house, her savings, and most of her possessions. I would receive some personal items and a small amount of money. She said it was only fair since he had sacrificed everything to care for her. I was stunned but tried to stay calm. Money had never been the issue for me, but the complete imbalance felt wrong. When I gently questioned her reasoning, my brother jumped in with stories about his financial struggles and future plans. Mom nodded along, looking at him with such pride and love that I felt sick. That night, I confronted my brother privately. He acted confused by my concerns, insisting he had never influenced Mom's decisions. He said she had come to these conclusions on her own, recognizing who truly cared about her. His tone was so sincere that I almost believed him. Almost. The next few months passed in a blur of deteriorating health and strained relationships. Mom's condition worsened rapidly, and my brother became even more protective of her time and energy. He started screening her calls, saying she needed rest. My visits became shorter and more awkward. I felt like an outsider watching my family slip away. Mom passed away on a Tuesday morning in October. My brother called me around noon, his voice shaking with grief. He said she had gone peacefully in her sleep, just as she had wanted. The funeral arrangements were already in motion, he explained, because Mom had planned everything in advance. Even in death, it seemed like she had preferred his input over mine. The reading of the will confirmed everything Mom had told us. My brother inherited the house, her car, her savings account, and most of her jewelry. I received a box of old photographs, some books, and $5,000. The lawyer seemed uncomfortable as he read the details, but everything was legal and properly executed. After the funeral, I helped my brother clean out Mom's belongings. The house felt different without her presence, hollow and strange. We worked mostly in silence, packing boxes and deciding what to keep. I found myself looking for some sign, some explanation for how things had changed so drastically between us. 2 weeks later, I was going through the box of photographs Mom had left me. Most were old family pictures, shots from our childhood vacation memories. At the bottom, I found something that made my heart stop. It was a small USB drive taped to the back of an old photo, with a note in Mom's handwriting that simply said my name. I plugged the drive into my laptop with shaking hands. There was a single video file dated just 3 months before Mom died. When I clicked play, her face appeared on screen, looking tired but determined. She was sitting in her bedroom, speaking directly to the camera in a whisper. She explained that she had been recording this in secret when my brother was out running errands. She wanted me to know the truth about what had been happening in the house. For months, she said, my brother had been gradually isolating her from me, intercepting some of my calls, telling her I was too busy to talk. He had convinced her that I resented having to visit, that I saw her as a burden. The manipulation went deeper than I could have imagined. My brother had been showing her fake screenshots of text messages, supposedly from me, complaining about her medical bills and talking about how eager I was for her to pass away. He had created an elaborate fiction about my wife and kids being frustrated with the time and money I spent visiting. Mom's voice cracked as she explained how confused and hurt she had been. She loved both of us, she said, but the evidence seemed so clear. My brother's constant presence and apparent sacrifice contrasted sharply with what she believed was my growing resentment. The will had been her way of expressing gratitude to him and disappointment in me. But then she had started noticing inconsistencies. Phone calls that supposedly never happened showed up on her caller ID. My brother's stories about my complaints didn't match things I had actually said during visits. She began to suspect that something was wrong, that she had been manipulated by the son she had trusted most. The video was her way of setting the record straight. She had updated her will again, she explained, reverting to her original plan of splitting everything equally. The new will was hidden in her safety deposit box, along with copies of this video and evidence of my brother's deception. She had been planning to confront him before she died, but her health had deteriorated too quickly. I sat in my living room, watching my mother's final message, feeling a mixture of relief and rage that I had never experienced before. She ended the video by telling me how sorry she was for doubting me, how much she loved me, and how proud she was of the man I had become. She asked me to forgive her and to use the truth to set things right. The next morning, I called the lawyer who had handled the will reading. I explained about the video and the safety deposit box. He was initially skeptical but agreed to meet me at the bank. When we opened the box, everything was exactly as Mom had described. The new will, dated just 2 weeks before her death, split everything equally between my brother and me. The lawyer examined the documents carefully. Mom had been thorough, including not just the new will but also printed copies of her phone records, photos of the fake text messages my brother had shown her, and even some recordings she had made of his conversations. She had been building a case against him in her final weeks, gathering evidence of his manipulation. Legal proceedings moved faster than I expected. The original will was invalidated, and the new one took its place. My brother was contacted by the lawyer and informed of the changes. He tried to contest it, claiming Mom had been mentally incompetent in her final weeks, but the video evidence and documentation were too strong. When I finally confronted my brother about what he had done, he initially denied everything. But when I showed him the video, his facade crumbled. He broke down, admitting to the manipulation, but claiming he had only wanted to secure his future. He said he had been desperate, facing financial ruin, and had convinced himself that he deserved more because of his sacrifices. The betrayal cut deeper than I had expected. This wasn't just about money or inheritance. It was about the trust we had shared as brothers and the love we had both felt for our mother. He had been willing to destroy our family relationships to get what he wanted. The brother I had grown up with, the one I had loved and trusted, had been replaced by someone I barely recognized. The house sale went through 6 months later. We split the proceeds exactly as Mom had originally intended, but the money felt meaningless compared to what we had lost. My brother moved across the country, and we haven't spoken since. Sometimes I wonder if he truly understood the magnitude of what he had done, or if he still justified it as somehow reasonable. I kept the video file and watch it sometimes when I miss Mom. She looks so tired in the recording, but her love for both of us shines through despite everything. She had been trying to protect our family even in her final weeks, working to ensure that the truth would eventually come out. Her courage in those last days amazes me more than I can express. The hardest part has been explaining everything to my kids. They don't understand why their uncle disappeared from their lives, why we never visit him anymore. I've tried to keep the explanations age-appropriate, but they sense the sadness and anger that still lingers. Family gatherings feel incomplete without him, even though his presence would be unbearable. My wife has been incredibly supportive throughout this whole ordeal. She never liked my brother much, she admits now, but she kept her concerns to herself out of respect for family harmony. She says she sensed something manipulative about him during Mom's illness, but couldn't put her finger on what bothered her. Her instincts were better than mine. The inheritance money has been helpful, allowing us to pay off some debts and secure our kids' college funds. But I would trade it all to have my mother back for just one more conversation, one more chance to tell her how much I loved her. The money feels tainted somehow, earned through pain and betrayal rather than love and generosity. I've thought about reaching out to my brother, trying to rebuild some kind of relationship. But every time I consider it, I remember Mom's voice in that video, the pain in her eyes as she described feeling abandoned by me. He stole her final months of peace, replaced love with doubt and confusion. Some betrayals are too deep to forgive. The strangest part is how normal everything looks from the outside. I go to work, take care of my family, participate in community events. Nobody knows about the family drama that destroyed our relationships. Sometimes I feel like I'm living a double life, carrying this secret burden while pretending everything is fine. I've learned to appreciate my wife and kids more deeply since this happened. The experience showed me how quickly family bonds can be corrupted, how trust can be weaponized against the people we love most. I'm more careful now about taking relationships for granted, more intentional about expressing love and gratitude while I still can. Mom's video remains the most precious thing she left me. Not because it restored my inheritance, but because it restored my peace of mind. For months, I had wondered if I really had been a bad son, if my brother's accusations had some truth to them. Her final message reassured me that our love had been real, that the memories I cherished were genuine. Sometimes I drive by the house where we grew up, now occupied by a young family with small children. I wonder if they know the history of their home, the love and betrayal that played out in those rooms. The new owners have painted the exterior and planted different flowers, but the bones of the building remain the same. The legal battle officially ended a year ago, but the emotional aftermath continues. I still have dreams about Mom sometimes, conversations where I get to tell her everything I never had the chance to say. In these dreams, she always forgives me for not being there more, for not seeing through my brother's manipulations sooner. My relationship with extended family has been complicated by what happened. Some relatives believe my brother's version of events, that I was greedy and contested the will out of spite. Others understand the truth but prefer to avoid taking sides. Family gatherings are awkward now, full of careful conversations and unspoken tensions. The hardest moments come during holidays and anniversaries. Mom's birthday, the anniversary of her death, Christmas mornings with my kids. These occasions highlight the absence of the family we used to be. My brother and I had planned to grow old together, to share stories about Mom and support each other through life's challenges. That future died with her. I've become more protective of my own children, more aware of how sibling dynamics can turn toxic under pressure. I watch them play together and hope they'll always have each other's backs, that they'll never let jealousy or greed destroy their bond. The innocence of their relationship reminds me of what my brother and I once had. The video file sits on my computer, a digital time capsule of my mother's final act of love. She had been dying, weakened by illness and medication, but she had found the strength to fight for truth and justice. Her courage in those last weeks taught me more about integrity than anything else in my life. Looking back, I can see the signs I missed, the gradual changes in family dynamics that should have raised red flags. My brother's sudden devotion, Mom's growing distance from me, the way conversations always seem to circle back to his sacrifices. It all makes sense now. Manipulation is insidious, building slowly until the victim can't see what's happening. The money from the house sale has been invested carefully, set aside for my children's futures. But the real inheritance from Mom isn't financial. It's the lesson about standing up for truth, about fighting for what's right even when it's difficult. She showed me that love sometimes requires courage, that protecting family means exposing those who would harm it. I still miss my brother sometimes, or rather, I miss the person I thought he was. The brother who helped me build tree houses and taught me to ride a bike, who stood up for me at school and shared his Halloween candy, that person feels like a stranger now. Maybe he never really existed, or maybe he got lost somewhere along the way. The relationship with my mother, complicated as it became in her final months, has been restored through her video message. I understand now that her love never wavered, that she was fighting against manipulation and confusion even as her body failed. Her final act was one of protection and truth, ensuring that justice would prevail even after she was gone.